Hey, I've had so much interest in the knitting videos and I love that. I'm so excited that more people are getting interested in knitting. It's a great hobby to have. So I wanted to walk you through a project that's a perfect beginning project to do while you're practicing and learning. This is just a a knit stitch scarf that only uses the knit stitch, and it's a great chance to practice it and have a nice project at the end. So what I'm using is two yarns. I'm using a Karen soft yarn and a Lion Brand variegated yarn. When you're working with yarn, if you have yarn that has the option of a center pull, which is just when it's pulling out of the center, that's the ideal way. You'd rather not use the end that's wrapped around the outside. It's just going to work a little smoother to have a center pull. The other yarn I'm using does not have that option, so we're just using the outside pull, but it'll twist and wrap, so I like to keep the skeins in different areas so they don't twist and get into a knot together. I'm using size 13 needles. It is easier to use shorter needles than longer, unless you need long needles for your project. Short needles are just easier to work with. I like wood needles, but I also really like plastic needles. For me, the hardest needles to use are metal, but they're all just fine. So these are 13 wooden needles, bamboo actually. Okay, to begin, remember we're going to make a slip knot. So I'm just twisting the yarn on itself to make a little loop, and then I'm bringing the long end of the yarn through that loop and pulling it up. Now I've got a nice little slip knot to begin working with. I'm going to poke my needle that's going to be in my left hand through that loop and tighten it up, and I'm pointing away from me. Now I'm going to begin casting on. You can cast on whatever number of stitches you'd like for your scarf. 10 is a nice number to work with and makes a nice length of scarf for this with this type of yarn. So remember, when you're learning, you already know, when you're casting on, you're going to come in from the left of that stitch and underneath your left hand needle. Then you're going to wrap your yarn around the left side, and between the two needles, pull that yarn through and stretch it up and over your left hand needle. Then you're going to keep casting on stitches till you have the number you need. So I'm poking in from the left and under my left hand needle, wrapping it, pulling it through, stretching it and putting it on the left needle. In, wrap, pull through, new stitch. In, wrap, pull through, new stitch. In, wrap, pull through, new stitch. I'm poking in from the left. I'm wrapping around the back, left, and in between, pulling it through, putting the new stitch on, in, wrap, pull through, new stitch, in, wrap, pull through, new stitch, and our last one, in, wrap, pull through. Okay, that's 10 stitches. Now we're ready to start knitting. So we poke in, wrap around, pull it through, and we just keep our new stitch on the right needle and kick the old one off the left. So we poke in from the left and behind, just like we did before, wrap, pull that new stitch through, and kick the old one off. In, wrap, pull through, kick it off, in, wrap, pull through, kick it off, in, wrap, pull through, in, wrap, pull through and off, all the way across. So now I'm to my last stitch on my left hand needle. I'm going to do exactly what I've been doing, poke in from the left and behind, wrap it around, pull it through, and now I kick it off and I'm ready to trade hands. I'm going to take this needle that's in my right hand and move it over to my left and move my empty needle to my right. when you first trade hands, you can be looking at it and be thinking like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You want to pull it so that the knitting is coming down and you're looking at the stitches across the top. Also bring your yarn down, and that will help you see, oh, okay, there's my stitch. I'm going to come in from the left and begin knitting again. So for this scarf, we're just knitting every row and every stitch. There's no purl stitches here. And it'll just make a nice textural looking scarf. I really like working with 2 yarns and big needles. It does make the project go faster. And I like using one solid color and one variegated color because it just gives it, I don't know, a little bit of a contrast, a little fun element to it without being too outlandish, I guess. All right, so as you knit, something that I struggled with in the beginning is if I stopped in the middle of a row and I put it down and then I came back and I picked my needles up and I was like, oh my gosh, where am I? I don't even know what to do now. Just stop and look at where your yarn is coming at. Okay, so here I can see, okay, there's my yarn, there's where it's coming in at. Wherever your yarn is at, that's the last stitch you knit. And so this needle with the long yarn should be in your right hand, and then of course the other one's in the left hand, and now you know that, oh, okay, that's where I'm at. And just keep it going. You can make this however long you want, you can make it however short you want. The next video that I'll be posting will be how to cast off stitches so that you can see how to finish up your scarf, but you can see that's how it'll look. It just keeps looking this garter stitch, which is knit every row. Happy knitting.